Most people have a vision of what they want their future to look like, something they imagine, a goal, a dream. And most people think they're coming up with an idea of what the future could look like someday. But what if that's not what's happening at all? What if time doesn't work the way you think it does? And the vision you have for your future isn't something that you're imagining, but something you're remembering. And the big mistake most people make is from that moment, they start trying to figure out how to get there. So here's the real question. What if what you want is already done and the only real problem is that you don't yet realize it? In this episode, I'm going to show you how time actually works backwards, why your vision is not made up, it's a memory, and why the more you try to force figuring it out, the more you actually push your future away. So let's get into it. All right, guys, so most people, I think it's really common, think that a vision or a hunch or an inspiration is something that they're inventing or creating. But if we look to the great mystics and the teachers, what they said was that everything that has ever happened has already occurred. In other words, creation is finished, and you're just waiting for that which you desire to materialize into your reality. And they said that the key to unlocking that future is to align yourself with the outcome that's already there. Now, I'm gonna explain this word salad for you and start with a story. There's a great movie called Arrival, where Amy Adams, she's the actress, she plays a linguist who's brought in by the government to learn how to communicate with an alien species. And what's fascinating is that their language isn't linear. It doesn't move from beginning to end in a sentence like ours does. They speak in symbols, and each symbol they use contains the entire message all at once, the past, the present, and the future. And so what happens is that as she starts to learn their language, something unexpected occurs. She doesn't start predicting the future, she actually starts remembering it. Because her mind is no longer processing time as a straight line, it's processing it as something that already exists in full. Now I want you to sit with this for a second, okay? If time isn't strictly linear, then it's not unreasonable to consider that the vision that you have for your life, the moment where you can see it clearly, isn't something that you're inventing, it's something that you're becoming aware of that already exists. So if that's true, then the game isn't figuring out how to get there, it's learning how to relate to the version of you that you must become in order for that future to become a reality here and now. Now, here's a writer downer. The future isn't something that you create, it's something that you become aware of. Now, I want you to imagine in your mind a timeline of your life, right? All the way to the left is the past, then in the middle you've got the present moment, and all the way to the right is your future. Now, if I ask you to remember something in the past, you'd call it a memory, right? You have a memory from your childhood. It's in your past, and you have the ability to remember it, right? It just makes sense. But I want you to take that timeline, and I want you to now imagine you've turned it into a circle. And here you are in your present moment on one point in the circle, right? Imagine that. And I can ask you to do the same thing. I can say, remember that childhood memory, and you'd see it on another point in the circle. But your future also sits on that circle. And so what I'm saying is that it's just as valid for me to ask you to remember something in your past as it is to remember something in your future, because it all sits on the same timeline. So you have the ability to do that. In fact, you do it all the time. You have thoughts of your future, right? You have a vision for your future. You imagine your future. You get into a great workout in the gym, or you're listening to some inspiring music, or you're walking in nature, or you're staring out the window, and you're daydreaming. Well, what I'm telling you is that you aren't playing make-believe. You're remembering another point in your timeline and mistakenly calling it your future. Now, if that doesn't blow you away, frankly, I don't know what will, but it brings up the next question, which is, why doesn't everyone achieve the vision? In other words, if we're all remembering our future, why for most people does that future never arrive? And that's a great question. Here's the answer. The reason why most people don't ever materialize or experience in the present moment that point in their timeline is because of the way that we've been taught to achieve goals. So rather than going, holy shit, I just remembered my future, and then from that moment, living in anticipation and excitement around what you just saw, most people immediately move into the one thing that can negatively alter their timeline. They start trying to figure it out. I want you to think about this for a moment. there are two possible versions of you right now. There's much more than that, but let's imagine there are two possible versions of you right now. There's the version of you that knows that what you want is already done. It exists on your timeline. And then there's the version of you that thinks that you have to figure out how to create what you just saw. That you have to work hard to produce that result. That you can't achieve that result because it seems too far-fetched, right? That person is the person who does not have the result versus the person who believes the result is already done. And those are two completely different people. Both of those versions of you might have thoughts and ideas. You might take action. Both will do things to produce the outcome. Make no mistake, I'm not saying you just imagine the outcome and it mystically appears. Both versions will have thoughts, take action, do things, but realize that it's two completely different people. And the one who understands that the future is already complete is highly likely, if not certain, to arrive at that point in the timeline. But the version of you who believes that you have to figure out how to create the results will arrive at points on the timeline called trying to figure out how to produce the result instead of arriving at the desired result itself. I mean, think about it. If I told you that I went to the future and I came back from the future and saw that you were a millionaire or a billionaire and you actually believed me, would you spend time trying to figure out how to become a millionaire or a billionaire, or would you live your life knowing that you would become a millionaire or a billionaire and taking action from that place? Like if I went to the future and told someone that they were going to become super successful in their business and they believed me, would they be showing up the next day in their business as a person who is trying to become super successful in business, or the person who knows they are going to be, that it is already done, super successful in their business? See, it seems like a 2mm distinction, but it is literally everything. Because when you think you need to figure out your future, you spend all your time trying to figure out your future. And you move from receiving, like waiting in excited anticipation for the next hunch or idea that you can take action on, knowing that it may not be a direct line to success, but eventually through the twists and turns, you'll get there. You move from receiving to figuring it out. And that is a different identity. That is a different frequency. That is a different mindset. You move from allowing the solutions, the coincidences, the synchronicities, the inspiration that you then take action on. You move from allowing to resistance. Right? Rather than going downstream, you're swimming upstream. And so you shift from anticipating the outcome to living in the gap. And so most people never get to that point on the timeline called outcome. They visit lots of different points called not yet quite there. That's the gap. And this is critical because your brain is a goal-achieving machine. So if you think that your desired outcome is somewhere in the future, it stays in the future forever. And you never arrive at that point in the timeline. It's kind of like imagine a donkey with a stick attached to its head and a carrot at the end of it. It's like no matter how far the donkey goes, the carrot's always in front of it, right? The thing that you want is always in your future because you never assume the identity of the one that has, but you assume the identity of the one who's striving towards. So, what do? How do we create this shift? And before I tell you, I do want to mention something really important. I am doing a live 3-day virtual event. It's coming up. There's a link in the show notes and description of this episode. You can click on it and check out all the details. I rarely do this, but I'm actually going to be taking everybody through my 12-step framework. It's called the Whole Human Framework. It is the structure that I have put together over the course of the last more than a decade now that's going to help you get absolutely clear on what you want, the future that you want, and identify the resistance that is showing up in the present moment, the belief system, the unresolved traumas, the doubts and the fears, and using some of the most powerful tools and frameworks that I have to transform that resistance so that you can actually close the gap between where you are and the results that you want to produce. So I rarely do this. The last time I did this was in person for my high-level coaching clients, but I want to make this technology as available as possible to as many members of our community as possible. So when you get a chance, click on the link in the show notes, check out the details of this upcoming 3-day virtual event. I'm going to be leading the entire thing. You're not going to want to miss it. Click on the link, reserve your seat, and I will see you there. Now, what do we do in order to flip the switch, right? so that we can embody the knowingness now rather than living in the gap of someone who strives towards the result. The first foremost thing is we have to understand that our inspirations are not made up. They are memory. That's why I wanted to explain to you how this works. We must know that in that moment, we've tuned into another point on the timeline, and we must step into the identity of the person who knows that we already are and we already have the thing desired. This doesn't mean that, again, that we don't take action, but we take action from the identity of the knowingness that what we want already exists, it already is, and from that identity, we are functioning in the present moment with non-resistance. If you already know that your future is an inevitability, you do not bring resistance into the present moment. And so now you are operating in the most powerful state that you can operate from, which is non-resistance. One of the most powerful distinctions in all of personal growth is this equation. It's also a writer-downer. Desire plus non-resistance equals desired result. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Desire plus non-resistance equals desired result. And what this says is that if you have a desire to make more money, to be more successful in business, to overcome your anxiety, to get out of your depression, to find your soulmate, to have a better relationship with the person that you're with, whatever it is, a desire, it could be anything. The key to producing that desire in your life, the desired result, is non-resistance. It's not hustle, it's not grind, it's not having enough money, it's not having enough time, it's not controlling your external circumstances, it's not doing things perfectly. It's none of the plays that we run in our life on a day-to-day basis. The key is non-resistance. And so thinking that our vision or our inspiration is just an idea and that we need to figure out how to get from here to there is the resistance. It is the great misunderstanding. And recognizing that what's happening in that moment is actually a remembering allows us to, in that instant, close the gap between desiring and having. And it is that moment, it is that shift in perspective that is a shift in identity. It's literally a transformation in who you are, how you perceive reality, how you perceive yourself. And that is the key to achieving whatever it is that you want. That's what the great mystics meant when they said all of creation is already finished. And the key to materializing what version of creation you want into your present moment is to align yourself with that outcome. Now, again, will you take action? Yes, of course. You want a successful business, you're going to look back and go, I did all these things to produce the result. You know, you want to meet your soulmate, you'll go, well, this is how it happened. You want to get healthy, you'll say, well, this is how it occurred. Will there be challenges? For sure. It's not a straight line. But if you can hold the knowing, like if you can stay loyal to the vision, as the great mystic Neville Goddard said, right? Stay loyal to that point on the timeline that you've accessed, it'll occur, right? That's why Jesus said, all things come to he that believeth. Your present moment must evolve into that timeline point if you're willing to hold the vision and the identity while taking daily action in relationship to it. Note that I didn't say daily action towards it because that's linear thinking, but daily action in relationship to it. It must materialize. So look, if this landed for you, again, just a reminder, I've got my upcoming live virtual 3-day event coming up here shortly. All the details are in the description of this episode. You can click on the link, check it out, make sure you carve out the dates, clear out your calendar, and save your seat. This is how we actually take everything that we've been talking about, not only on this episode, but all the episodes on this channel, and do the most important thing, which is integrate it into our reality, to take the knowledge and to actually rewire our brains so that we can re-engineer our reality. That's coming up here shortly. I would love for you to join me and hundreds of other members of our community in that 3-day virtual event. If you haven't yet, oh my gosh, subscribe. Like, be a part of this community. Make sure you get the notifications when we come out with a new episode on this channel, because you know what? We're all growing together. We're healing together. We're creating a new system together. We're walking together. This is not a do-it-yourself project. It is do it with others. And the best thing you can do is subscribe to be a part of that movement with me and with us. I love you so much. Thank you for bringing your energy, your soul, your spirit, your intuitions, your ideas, and every point on your timeline into this space with me. And I will see you in the next episode.